Alright, I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how I want to approach this review because I have so much that I could say, but I don't want to waste time with this because let's just get right into it. Alright, Madame Web is the newest Sony live-action Spider-Verse film, but there's no clear indication of whether there will actually ever be a Spider-Man in this universe. We thought for a little while it might be Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland, but it's looking like this little subgenre within the superhero universe is going to die out as quick as anything else. As much as I like to make fun of the MCU, this Sony side of things is 100 times worse. I mean, the Venom movies are so-so, they're watchable. I even thought Morbius had its fun elements, Matt Smith giving his super over-the-top performance. This is the first one that I think genuinely has next to no redeeming qualities. It really doesn't. And the sad thing is, I saw this coming from the moment I watched the trailer for the first time. And if you've seen it, you probably know about that famous line of dialogue that has been memed to hell already, even though the movie just came out.
Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Yeah, that one. And guess what? That line isn't actually in the movie. But I just want to give you an idea of what 90% of the dialogue in the film is like. And it's on that level. It is genuinely difficult to listen to. And I suppose you could say there's an element of dumb fun to be had just by laughing at the dialogue. But I think most people don't go to the movies solely for that type of experience. So the plot of this film is that we have a woman named Cassie Webb, because of course her last name is Webb, played by Dakota Johnson. She's a paramedic who learns a strange history behind her mother's death, which leads her to uncovering the idea that she has these powers and is able to see the future, Final Destination style, and avoid things by having a chance to live out scenarios a second time. Now, I'm not opposed to a superhero movie taking that kind of approach, using that concept, almost a little bit of Terminator meets Final Destination, but everything down to the details is just atrocious. Honestly, it would be an insult to AI to claim that this may have been written by a ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT could have written a better screenplay than what we got here, which just shows that Sony doesn't give a shit. Somehow they make these incredible animated Spider-Verse movies, but the second you switch over to live action, everything is generic. It's bottom of the barrel scraps. And right from the opening scene, I knew this was going to be horrible because we follow Cassie's mother as she's in the Amazon looking for this rare species of spider with this dude that you know is going to be the one who kills her. Every single line of dialogue in this opening scene exists solely as exposition. Human beings just don't talk like this. They don't. And the acting, when it comes to both of these characters in the opening scene, is so awful. I know it's bad dialogue too, but we've seen great actors before elevate terrible screenwriting. No such case here. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a single member of the cast who is able to do much with their role. If I had to pick somebody who stands out a little bit, I didn't know Adam Scott was in this, and he shows up. He's got about 10 minutes of screen time max. I thought he was going to be the love interest type character, but then it turns out he's married to Emma Roberts, who I also had no idea was in this. Apparently, these two are supposed to actually be Peter Parker's parents, which I didn't even know until reading about the film after having seen it. That's how piss poor the attempt is here to actually connect this to anything close to the character of Spider-Man. Oh god, alright, let's get back to the cast. Adam Scott was at least likable, semi-likable. He did as much as he possibly could have with the minimal amount of screen time. Let's talk about Dakota Johnson for a second, because I've seen people praise, above all else, her performance in this, claiming it's the one saving grace. I don't know what people that are saying that are on, because she was sleepwalking her way through this entire movie, and I don't really blame her. I don't think Dakota Johnson is a bad actress per se. I really liked her in Suspiria from 2018, as well as, Bad Times at the El Royale. She's had some good performances in the past, but here, either she just doesn't care, or there was just no back and forth between her, the writers, and the director to genuinely bring anything from this performance. As a protagonist, she's the most bland character imaginable, and once she discovers she has these powers, she also comes to the realization that the villain in this movie, Ezekiel Sims, we'll talk about him in a few minutes, we learn that he's after these three young girls because he's had premonitions of his own future in which these three girls in superhero suits kill him. Which again, in concept, not so bad, reminds me a lot of Terminator. But Cassie finds herself having to rescue these three girls, and essentially they're on a road trip through the entire film, trying to stay out of sight, not only from Ezekiel, but also the law enforcement that are after them. And that's a plot point that they don't even give a shit enough to ever resolve. Cassie becomes the prime suspect in the kidnapping of these 3 teenagers, and yet it's never brought up again. She's able to somehow book an airline ticket to Peru. I don't want to even begin to scratch the surface of the lack of logic in here because it's really not even worth it. And I guess one thing that I wasn't prepared for going into this is how small the amount is of actual screen time in which normal superhero shenanigans are going on. There is like 2 minutes of actual fighting and action in this. The rest is just these 4 characters on the run trying to get away from this guy, and Dakota Johnson having premonitions of moments in the future, and she's like, what the hell is going on? It becomes so tedious and tiresome. Add in all of the horrible dialogue, and you have yourself what is truthfully one of the worst comic book films I have ever seen. This is like early 2000s Catwoman, Elektra level of bad. I think this goes without saying too, based on what you've seen if you've watched the trailer, but the direction here is completely uninspired. There's no interesting things going on in the choreography of the attack scenes. I'm going to call them attack scenes because there's no actual fighting. The visuals are murky. The CGI is atrocious. It's everything that you could possibly think of that makes a terrible movie, all crammed into one absolute train wreck. So this villain, Ezekiel Sims, he's the guy that's dressed up in a makeshift Spider-Man suit that you see in the trailer. They try to do some interesting things with him jumping on the ceiling and the camera doing a 180 spin to follow him, but it's so terribly done. It's shaky. Again, I mentioned the visual effects being bad. Another thing that's just ridiculous, though, is that his powers are never explained. For instance, there's a sequence in which Cassie has a nightmare in which Ezekiel, I forgot his name already, talks to her and basically delivers a bunch of exposition, things that we as the audience already know, but she doesn't know. And then she wakes up from that nightmare, and I'm just sitting here thinking, wait a minute, is this an actual ability that he has? Can he enter people's nightmares? Or is this just a means to which the writers wanted to reveal this information to a character and they couldn't think of another way to do it? Because that's really what it felt like. And above all else, this just, it gives you nothing. I can't think of a single redeeming quality or reason why you would want to see this. I mean, if you see the suits in the trailer, you know, the 3 girls actually having their spider legs and shit, and mild spoilers incoming, but I really think I'm just saving you time by warning you about this. Those sequences where they're fully suited up are them imagining things in the future. It's not even actually a part of the story. I'm shocked and appalled, despite the fact that I went into this with such low expectations. They have really achieved something here. Congratulations, Sony. Oh my god, I mean, I even forgot that Sydney Sweeney plays one of the girls that Cassie is trying to protect. Normally, even if she doesn't give a good performance, she at least has some degree of a presence, personality. But again, there's just nothing here. It's probably in large due to the horrible dialogue. I'm sure there will be people out there who are going to tell me that I'm being harsh, but I'm sorry. This to me is absolute irredeemable trash, and I'm going to give Madame Web a 0.5 star out of 5. It's truly that awful. And I understand, making a movie is not easy in and of itself. Making a good movie is even more difficult. But with the budget and the materials that Sony has and the time that they have, there's no passion in this. There's no passion whatsoever. Nobody seemed like they wanted to be there in the cast. The writers sure as hell didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So please, avoid this one at all costs. Save your money. I'm sorry, but I want to see this little universe die because I'm sick of it. All right, so those are my thoughts on Madame Web. We're now, like 5 or 6 movies into 2024, and I still haven't given a positive review. One day we'll get there, man. As always, though, I do want to hear from you guys. Drop down into the comments and let me know, is this as bad as I'm saying it is? Do you think this is worse than Morbius? I certainly think so. I found Morbius to at least be superficially entertaining, even if it is quite bad. This, even with how terrible the dialogue is, I was not necessarily entertained, just shocked and appalled. While you're at it, please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.